The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Wow. It's been a long time since
hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, and off we go with Admiral COVID.
Yeah, we missed you on Friday, people. We know, we heard from you.
Yeah, we did.
COVID numbers as of yesterday is 579,580. New cases was 1,678. Total deaths to date is 6,531. New deaths is 33. And Bristol County has 58,122 cases.
Yeah, well, we'll, as usual, we're tracking it as best we can, and we'll see. Hopefully, we've turned the corner on this, but we got a very busy Monday, I guess, because a lot of action's taking place. We didn't have a Friday show, so we've got so many things to talk about, CPA and all kinds of things. So, CJ, get us what should we talk about first today?
Well, let's talk about the CPA. As many people may remember, the Adams House project, which has been, I guess, controversial within the CPA realm, was denied CPA funding. It went to the city council as a denial, and Sean Kadim and Linda Pereira, I believe, had put it out to have it sent back, or Sean Kadim pushed to send it back to the CPA for reconsideration. And they sent it back to the CPA. Now, according to what I was told, the CPA sent it up to the state for review. That may be inaccurate, so I don't want to be quoted as it being an accurate report. But from what I was told, it was sent up to the state for review for potential for funding. The state refused it. So the state denied it as well. Ken Fiola is now trying to get back in front of the CPA to argue that the CPA project for Adams, the CPA funding for Adams House, is a public interest because they're going to take 2 out of all the units and make them for low to moderate income people instead of market rate. So maybe they'll save $200 a month on the rent. But that's only 2 out of all of those. Is that going to make up for all the money he got? Because remember, he's also selling off parcels of land for single-family homes, and Cliff Ponte's part of that deal. Because I guess he is the realtor that's selling those parcels of land. Isn't it amazing how it gets so convoluted with politicians and developers? It seems to happen all the time. It's the same thing with the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals. If you're connected to a politician or you've got the right attorney, boom, you've got that zoning board wrapped around your finger.
Well, as the bard once said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive." So we're looking at this, and again, it looks like the rich guys are going to get richer. They just keep coming at you until you finally succumb. Fiola's going to keep pushing this because who's part of that deal? One of his.
Oh, that's Nick Kristen. Or I don't know. Excuse me. Correct that. I know that it's Bobby Karam. I'm not sure if Baycoast has anything involved in that.
Who is a very close friend of Mr. Fiola, and we know that. But, you know, the problem is, listen, this CPA, this is why we have to repeal it. We know what happened with the other thing they got, and then they painted the thing. They violated all the regulations for to maintain its historical site classification. So they just take the money, do whatever the hell they want, and the rich guys keep getting richer. The rich guys want to get subsidized while they make money. I mean, we're talking about people who are multimillionaires. You know, the poor small business owner can't get a loan. Half of them are getting rejected. It takes them a year and a half to get money because of the COVID. Everybody's sinking down the sewer, and the same old rich guys in Fall River just keep getting subsidized for everything they do.
Well, that's the way it seems to work.
Isn't this supposed to be a capitalist society?
Yes,
you know,
it is.
You take business, you take a chance, you use your money, but they don't even have to use their money.
They use ours.
They get TIFs, they get breaks on everything, and they get subsidized for everything they do. They don't even have to use their own money. You know, it's really nice to be rich. The elite class in the United States is running the federal government, the state government, and the local governments. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, they're going to keep pushing this thing. Use your own money. You got it. That's the way I feel. And that's why the CPA has to be repealed. We know that the CPA has been abused since it was adopted. It was adopted under false pretenses that this was about historical buildings and maintaining their historical preservation. And all it's been used for is political hacks. What was the other one? The former president of BCC's spouse?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
She violated the historic restrictions on the building.
Exactly.
She got the money for air conditioners.
Yeah.
And attached to the deed was some historic restrictions. And there's a book which I actually saw, and it's on page 232, I believe, on what they can. Oh yeah, isn't that strange? It's on page 232, I believe, of what they can and cannot do to that building, and what they must do to preserve its integrity, its historic integrity. And Miss Sprague decided, oh no, we need to have funny color paint so the kids feel comfortable. We need to make it entertaining to them. You can't do that.
Oh yeah, you actually. I beg to differ. In the new United States of America, the elitists can do anything they want.
I guess.
Damn the law. Full speed ahead with the. We can do anything we want because we know better than you do. Just like on a federal level, they can violate anything they want. Run the country by fiat, and the hell with the Constitution, the hell with everything, and realistically, the hell with the middle class and the poor people. I mean, that's the reality of what it's just totally out of control. We still got people locked in their houses, and maybe, just maybe, if you're vaccinated, remember this, CJ, being Admiral COVID, just remember this. If you're really you're a good boy and you got your vaccinations, you might be able to cook a couple of hot dogs out in your backyard with your family. But we can let thousands of illegals come over who have COVID. I just saw some pictures today that were taken by a Democratic congressman of I don't know how many, almost double the capacity, and they're sleeping side by side, wrapped in tinfoil blankets. And those pictures are now going to be all over the place. I mean, it's a travesty. We're being locked down. We're being told what to do. They're releasing them without any appearance. You can go, and they tell you you're on your own. It's the honor method. We're going to let you loose into this country, send you to Chicago or Miami or somewhere, and it's up to you to go make an appointment for your hearing. Yeah, see how many appointments they make for their hearings. This is ridiculous. And I don't have anything against people, but the fact is that your grandparents or whoever, at some point in time, they all came to this country. And I know that my grandparents came to this country legally. And we have rules and we have regulations, and all countries have to have borders. I'm sorry. That's what makes nations. I know that the elitists want to have a global society where there are no borders. You just got low wage slaves, because that's their mission. Actually, I have a book. People think this is something new. I got a book that was written about 75 years ago that the multinational banks had this planned 75 years ago. They wanted to eliminate countries and create basically a universal wage, so they didn't have to move their factories around. Everybody on the planet was just a low-wage chimp. So we work for peanuts, and they sit at the top. We're going to go back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, where places like Fall River, the Braytons and the Durfees sat out on their verandas sipping tea and smoking cigars, and watching all the people in the mills working for slave wages, 14 hours a day, and then having to pay rent in the 3 decades that the Bordens and the Braytons and everybody else built, and buy their food from stores they owned. So they basically paid you virtually nothing. And then they took it, what little they paid you, they got about 90% back when you paid the rent and bought food. And that's corroborated. I have the book sitting right in front of me, Laver's Untold Story, about the guy that testified in front of the Senate in the late 1880s about making virtually no money in Fall River, while the rich got richer. And so history repeats itself again. We're evolving into a country where we have the elitists making everybody poorer, and they don't care because they're still getting rich. And they don't care about borders. They don't care about sovereignty. So it's too bad, but this is what we got. And one of their primary MOs, their modus operandi, is that they ignore the law when it suits them. You see, they're the elite class. They only have to abide by the law when it suits them, like Fall River does. Oh, the hell with the law. CPAs get attached something to the deed. I don't care. You know who I am. And that's the way it is. And now look at this thing you just talked about. Look who got this pushed back. I don't see, it's really kind of unique to see Linda and Sean Kadim on the same page, don't you think? Very rarely do we see that.
That's true.
But when they're backing a rich guy who's got a lot of power in the city, they unite. I guess that old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're banding. It's funny to see Sean Kadim and Linda Pereira on the same page. Very rarely does that happen. But when the common denominator is one of the shakers and movers in Fall River, we find out that they're all in a tank for those guys.
Well, and you and I both know, you and I would never get elected to office or put in any position that would work out nicely.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you now, because we don't play the game. And because we don't play the game, we get be on the outside, looking in, critiquing what they do, calling them out for what they do, yet we get ostracized by all the movers and shakers, and we get ostracized by the politicians, except a select few who actually listen and know we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, true. And we see this, so we see a brouhaha, and we this CPA, it's obvious that the CPA has to go. Here's another just blatant example of how the CPA has been used as a slush fund for the city and the big money people. Because look at who gets it. Look at who gets the money, and look what they do with it. And they don't care. They don't care about the rules. They don't care about the laws. They don't care about anything. They just care about their own agenda. And now I guess we've got an issue I guess that they're demanding that the superintendent of schools appear before the council, and I guess there's going to be a little. I guess there might be a little fireworks going on at the council meeting Tuesday, because I guess there are going to be a few people, or maybe at least one, who is going to object and say he doesn't really have to be there. So let's see if the person whose name I heard, and I'm not going to say it right now, I'll you know who I'm talking about, is supposed to make an objection. But let's see if, and I won't even say the sex, because then we'll have it narrowed down and then we'll know for sure. But the reality is, let's see if that person actually defends that serial predator, and let him duck his duty as the superintendent of schools and not appear before the city council. City administrators, CFOs have to go down there. It's part of their job, as is the superintendent of schools. It's his job to be there to answer questions. He is the CEO of the school department. So if the city council wants him there, I feel he's obligated by his position to appear. So that's another one that's on the horizon. Another situation where we might see some fireworks Tuesday. So, but the city is just spinning its wheels, doing nothing, and we're getting ready to go full scale into campaign season. So the circus will begin.
You mean the circus hasn't begun yet?
Well, no, but we only got the 3-ring circus. The 8-ring circus is coming to town.
The interesting part is a city councilor did make comments over the weekend on Facebook, and that was Linda Pereira, talking about, if the superintendent doesn't want to be there, that should not put a stop on the projects that need to be done, especially the Watson School, because it's to make it handicap accessible and comply with the American with Disabilities Act. And as you know, I wrote in the Weekend Flush that my question is, what's the lifespan of that building going to be after we dump another $4 million into it? And it's $4.9 million just to keep it under the amount of money necessary to have you vote on it. Isn't that nice? You get denied the right to vote again. But again. And the interesting thing is that I can see where Councilor Pereira is coming from, where projects need to be done. Why should we stop it? Why should we stop it? Because we don't get any information. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear from Ken Pacheco. I don't want to hear from Kevin Almeida. I don't want to hear from Kevin Aguiar. I want to hear from Matt Malone. I want to hear why these projects are so necessary, why we have to deny the voters the right to vote on them, and why they're deliberately lying to the people by cutting them out of the process. Why are they turning around saying, okay, the project is actually $7-point-some-odd million, but if we break it up into 1.8 for a field, $600,000 for the lights, then we only have another one where it's 4-point-some-odd million. Guess what? We can get that through without having you voted on. But the project's really worth about $8 million. This is where the problems happen. And this is why you, the people, you, the voter, need to make sure that you call them out and say, no, I'm not going to have that. Don't be putting it through to do that. They did this with streetscapes. Do you remember what they did with streetscapes, people? They cut them up into little bits and pieces so that they could send them through, all of it through, without a voter referendum. That's what happened. It went out without a voter referendum because they cut them up into little pieces. Granted, the streetscapes were then canceled, but nonetheless, that's how they did it. And that was under the Jason Carrera administration. But the Paul Coogan administration is just as bad. They're doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. And while I'm on Paul Coogan,
well, how did I know we were going there?
I swear that the press in this area is handling Paul like the national press is handling Joe Biden. Nothing goes wrong. They're writing his campaign speeches for him. They just wrote an article where Paul Coogan is pairing up with the Attorney General's office to end city blight. You know what the most city blight is? It's not on streets and neighborhoods. It's in the city government. It's city buildings. It's city buildings that are blighted. Just look at some of them. They're ridiculous. Why don't you fix those buildings before you start going out fixing private property? Why don't you take care of your own house before you start taking care of somebody else's? This is a problem.
Yeah, but isn't it amazing how long have we been ending city blight in Fall River? Forever. And we always end city blight in a campaign season. It never gets eliminated, but we always have these grandiose gestures and promises. It's like the commuter rail. Did it pull up in front of your house today, CJ?
I haven't seen it yet.
We've been hearing that for 25 years. The commuter
I haven't
rail,
seen it yet.
and it's still coming. Don't worry, the check's in the mail. You know? Don't worry. As that great adage, the check is in the mail. Don't worry about it. But this is, again, political crap during a political season. That all the promises, and the thing is, they're not even inventive enough to make new promises. At least Jazel, like I said, he was going to have the Hanging Gardens of Babylon in a parking garage. So that was pretty unique and new. So you got to give him credit for a little bit of at least not using the same old hackneyed, I want to see Pleasant Street like it used to be in South Main Street, and we're going to end urban blight, and we're going to end drug addiction. I remember that. That started in the 70s.
That's right.
So, and we still haven't eliminated, the problem. As a matter of fact, we're now encouraging it. But, this is the thing that really, really gets me. You talked about, you talked about this bond. I had a conversation with more than one counselor about my outrage, and I said, I'm going to get some taxpayers to file a complaint. I want to know who raised our debt ceiling.
Oh yeah, that's another big issue.
So now Mary Sahadi supposedly has given the city a $10 million blank check. Now, we just can't bond without something to bond for. But right now, they're asking for another $10 million of blank checks. And one of the responses I got from a counselor was, well, it's a discretionary thing. They don't really have to have a ceiling, but they did it. I said, wait a minute. Oh, we have a stipulation that if we're spending more than $5 million, it's got to go to the voters. Do you think if you're going to write yourself a blank check for $10 million, that you can just do that? I said, did they go before the council? No. I said, well, like the 22 windows. We never found out what happened. Well, I'm telling you that I want to know who changed that and added $10 million to our debt ceiling, and how they determined that they had the legal right to do that without voter approval. And I'll question that on a state level or in court. We'll get a 10 taxpayer suit. This is ridiculous. All they continue to do is spend more money. But I can guarantee you that when we go to the budget, your taxes will increase to the max. You may have to look at a debt override. The water and sewer fees will go up again. All the fees will go up again. And they still want to put another $10 million over the top of that, which means endless taxes forever. Unless you get these people out of office and elect people who will tighten their belt, you will never, ever stop getting tax increases. There will never be relief for the average person, the rent payer, the average taxpayer. Because the reality is we will always be one of the poorest cities in Massachusetts until we hit receivership, then we'll be the poorest. But we will be the city that has no money, but has the most expensive baseball field, the most expensive football field, the most expensive high school. Because as Councilor Kilby said, I want our kids to have the same baseball field or a better baseball field than they have in Newton. Well, as I said, I'm all in favor of athletics, but we can have an acceptable field without spending money and having a field that's better than Fenway Park. They don't have AstroTurf at Fenway Park, but we're going to build a field with, quote, all the amenities. And they had to break it up. The taxpayer never gets a say, ever. So the only way you're ever going to get your say, taxpayer, is boot these people out and put people in that council, because they are the legislative body and fundamentally the Ways and Means Committee. Boot them out and put people in who are running on a platform of, we will make sure we deliver the services that we're mandated to do, but we are going to have a no-frills budget. We're not going to have a ton of extra jobs and a ton of extra everything. And it's up to you, because the only way we can control this government is by electing people who will represent us, not all the rich guys, and keep going back and then appealing and appealing and appealing until they get their way. We need representation in this city. We need representation for us, the people. But
what's very interesting is the fact that it's going to take the voters to get off their backsides and do something. And now we have the opportunity. We're putting together the petition to repeal the CPA. Okay, that's one of the first things you want to do. I'm right now researching on how to put together the petition for the underride, the Prop 2.5 underride. And where do we want to set it? Do we want to set it at 25 million? Do we want to set it at 50 million? Do we want to set it at 75 million? Those are big dollar figures for our budget. Okay, and I'll tell you now, when you go to take out 25 million out of the budget, the mayor's going to have a heart attack. He's going to be all bent out of shape. And the first words out of his mouth is, police and fire are going to go. And you and I both know that can't happen. Okay? The unfilled positions may have to go. The unfilled positions may have to go because, hell, we don't fill them anyhow. We only want it for, free cash. But don't say police and fire have got to go, because that's not true. Police and fire do not have to go. You're going to have to curtail your spending. And no one wants to curtail their spending. And remember, I'm going to quote Mary Sahadi at a city council budget hearing meeting. You can expect taxes to go up every year. We have no choice but to raise taxes every year, which tells you already that your tax is going to be raised every year because Mary Sahadi wants it that way.
Yeah.
She wants the fees raised every year. Look at what they did to the water and sewer. They could have potentially used some of the COVID money they had received to offset those costs to the taxpayer. But the city didn't want to do that. They wanted to save the money because, God forbid, we spend a dime of federal money, but we'll spend all of your money without a problem.
That's true. Well, as you said, Mary Sahadi said, you can expect, we have basically no choice, but we do have a choice. We can get rid of the councilors that support this endless spending. We can get rid of the mayor that supports it. And we can get rid of this CFO who doesn't know how to do anything but accumulate more money to spend for her rich friends and send pictures of her swimming pool and her luxurious home in Florida, where she's going to live after she retires, because she's going to get out of Fall River so fast there's going to be a vapor trail out of her butt. So we all know where these people go. They leave, they get out of town because what they are is carpetbaggers. They're going to take the money and run. The money that they made from this city, they're going to take the money and run. So it's up to you, people. We keep telling you this. Stay informed. Go to the polls, and we are going to be putting together some people to look to run for political office. We need you to be involved.
That's for sure. And remember, where the Citizens Alliance for Accountability in Government can be reached on Facebook. Please do it, because we can use all the supporters we can get to get out there, get the signatures, and make a change happen in Fall River. Well, we're out of time. I want to thank you all for watching. It's been great to have you and great to be back. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and wear a mask. And remember, hold your politicians accountable. Have a great day. We'll see you on Wednesday.